Hey folks, you got Mr. MegaManFan coming at you today with Zero, the Kamikaze Squirrel for Sega Genesis. This one is not Sega Genesis exclusive. It came out on Genesis first, but it was released for Super Nintendo a month later. So if you want to disregard this as a proper entry in the Genesis Does series, I would completely understand. But after looking through exclusive games, I just felt like playing a platformer instead of picking something specifically to be exclusive. I just wanted to have a little fun with this week's episode. Now, as you might have guessed from the game's name, it stars Zero, the Kamikaze Squirrel, who was previously a rival of Aero the Acrobat in Aero's games. For those who have never played those games, here's a little synopsis to help you understand what's going on. During the events of Aero the Acrobat 2, Zero received a telegram from Amy telling him an evil lumberjack named Jacques Lecheats is deforesting their homeland of Stony Forest to produce counterfeit money. So wait, let me get this straight. He's deforesting an entire ecosystem just to make paper from the wood pulp so he can make counterfeit money? Doesn't that seem counterproductive? Why wouldn't you just sell the wood as lumber and make your money directly instead of making counterfeit money that will probably be detected by the authorities and get you arrested? Just sell the goods you're harvesting. But I suppose if you're an evil person named Jacques Lecheat, then there's no such thing as a good, sensible plan to make your evil schemes work. You have to do it in the most ridiculous, over-the-top way possible. Speaking of convoluted plans, Jacques Lecheats has kidnapped Amy's father just to ensure that Zero doesn't interfere with his plans. He even gets shot down by Jacques Lecheats when he tries to go to Stony Island to save the day, which is where the plot of the game started. And then, as if Jacques Lecheats wasn't already a ridiculous enough villain, he kidnaps Amy too. So you can't win for losing here. He kidnaps Amy's father, he kidnaps Amy, and he's deforesting your entire village. And that's not even his real identity. I won't spoil it for you if you haven't played it, but suffice it to say, it's an alter ego for somebody else that you already have met earlier in the game, who turns out to have been the duplicitous mastermind all along. Sadly, because of the fact this game is a spin-off to a sequel to a game that may not have been hugely popular to begin with in Aero the Acrobat, this game is now one that goes for ridiculous amounts of money. The PAL Mega Drive version goes for 81 loose, 160 complete, and $408 brand new. The US version goes for $80 loose, $320 complete, and $611 new. If you thought that was bad, though, the Super Nintendo prices really knock it out of the park here. $181 loose, $469 complete, and an astounding $1,150 new and sealed. I've said it before, but I think I'll say it again here. That's why you shouldn't pay for a sealed game, because if somebody can fake the shrink wrapping and the store seal, that's easy money. They could buy a complete in-box copy for $500, shrink wrap it, and flip it, and bank that money while you have a sealed game that you never even play that's not even originally sealed to begin with. It was never sealed to begin with. It was opened and resealed. So buyer beware. Don't fall for it. There's a lot of counterfeit sealed games out there. Another thing that undoubtedly pushes up the price of this game is that it's considered to be a good platformer from the era, with aggregate scores of 71% on both Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, going as high as 8.25 out of 10 from EGM, although one of the complaints about this game from critics is the same one that I have. Captain Squiddio. Now that's a hell of a name, ain't it? Captain Squiddio from GamePro complained that most of Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel's moves are fun, but the dive and swoop are too difficult to control. I concur. It's very easy to gain momentum as Zero. Once you start running, you pick up speed at a breakneck pace, and your momentum is really hard to control when you want to slow down. And when you want to execute finesse moves, like specifically landing on an area or a platform, diving and swooping become very hard to do. You're going to take unnecessary hits just trying to land accurately. Moving fast is great when you can avoid enemies and bounce off chains of objects that ricochet you from one thing to the next, kind of a cross between regular Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic Spinball. But when you have to slow down and be careful, that's when things get a little dicey. Zero can shoot at his enemies, but some of them take multiple hits, so even when you think you've stopped at a safe distance and you're shooting at them to get them out of the way, they zoom at you and you lose one hit on your hit bar, and there are not a lot of Z's scattered around the levels to replenish your health, so you can't even afford to be a shooter in this game. You have to be strategic and know that an enemy is going to charge you and then avoid it and turn around and shoot it again. So it's a lot of start and stop. It doesn't make for a bad game, it just makes for one that teases that you're going to be able to go really, really fast and then pulls the rug out from under you and says, you better be careful. Gotta watch out for these enemies. So you have to constantly adjust your play style on the fly, or you just have to tiptoe through the tulips the whole time you're playing. Either way, just manage your expectations is the best thing I can say about Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel. Whatever you think it is, it's probably not that. And whatever it isn't, it might be to some degree, but not to the degree that it makes for a perfect game. It makes it a slightly above average platformer. Not one that I'd necessarily spend hundreds of dollars on. So I think this is in the emulation EverDrive compilation category. It would have been nice if they had licensed this for the Sega Genesis Mini or the Mega Drive Mini or any of the other variants of it, but I have not found it on any version of it on any region list anywhere. The list seems to go as high as Y for Yu Yu Hakusho Makio Totosen, and that's it. There's no Z, there's no Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel, so unless you hack a Genesis Mini and load your own games into it, it's not going to be there. Incidentally, the precursor to this game, Aero the Acrobat 2, also goes for some stupid prices as well. Not quite as stupid as Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel, but probably one that you would want to play in emulation or on an EverDrive as well, given the figures I'm about to read to you. PAL Mega Drive for Aero the Acrobat 2, 43 loose, 111 complete, 277 new. US version, 50 loose, 186 complete, 198 new. Kind of interesting that there's very little difference between complete and new in that case. For PAL on the SNES, 128, 323, 870, which outstrips the SNES complete new price of 347, loose 56, and complete 103. But with all of those prices, there's one thing in common. You're going to spend more on a complete in-box copy than you would on a Mega Drive Mini or a Genesis Mini, possibly more than a Terra Onion Mega SD or the competitor product, the Mega EverDrive Pro from Crix, that you can get at places like Stone Age Gamer, Castlemania, etc. I need to pick one of those up at some point because it allows you to play Sega CD games on a Genesis or an Analog Mega SG without using a CD attachment add-on. Don't try to just load CD files onto an SD card and put it into anything because it won't work. You need the actual BIOS and you need something to emulate the extra chips that come in a Mega CD because it was really like a console unto itself. It had additional hardware that really powered up a Sega Genesis, so unless you can FPGA those features, you're not going to be able to just insert a file into a standard Genesis and play those games. So, long story short, Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel is fun, a little bit hard, also stupidly expensive. So maybe just pray that if you want a physical copy, you happen to be there on a lucky day when you go to your local flea market, Goodwill, thrifts, rummage sales, whatever. Somebody just dumps a sack of Sega Genesis stuff and doesn't know what it's worth. Then you might be able to get this game physically. Otherwise, emulate it. Thanks as always for watching.
Genesis does. Genesis does. Genesis does. Genesis does. Genesis does. What Nintendo